Boxing is back with the IBO World Light Heavyweight Championship. Can Suarez take the belt? Or will one of Britain's brightest prospects, Lyndon Arthur, seize victory? Big Fight Live, Arthur versus Suarez, Friday at 10 on Channel 5.
This is Umar for IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Everlast. Thank you very much to Alex Krassyuk for joining me, because I'd imagine it's been a stressful week or two for you, Alex, eh?
Hi, Omar. Yeah, it's been a while. I would say it's been like 18 years, really stressful since I jumped in boxing.
Fair enough. Well, listen, let's jump to Sunday. So we saw on Frank Warren's Twitter, he said that there's very good news to come. I spoke to him today and he said that all the points were agreed on a conference call on Sunday, bar the rematch clause terms. Can you confirm that? Is that true, Alex?
Well, I would say that we went through the majority of the points that I sent out and asked them to be included into the contract, into the main contract. So I put our demands, not our, but Usyk demands, so that they be respected and reflected in the contract. During our conference call, which was really a fruitful and productive one, we had everyone on board. Frank, George, their lawyer, then Tyson's lawyer, our lawyer, Stephen Tregar, Igis, myself, and Jeremy of Top Rank, who is also the lawyer from Top Rank. Mm-hmm. So we went through majority of things. They were not accepted, so we had to compromise on them. Again, just want you to make clear. So we sounded like we agreed, and I was really optimistic that from that point we are having a fight. But when we came closer, you know, the devil always stays in details. So when we came closer, we had to struggle again, and it was a critical mess. You know, like a nuclear weapon, when the nuclear mess comes together, it just blows up. So the split on the rematch was the point that gave the ignition. So it was the ignition point, and it just exploded. Usyk was. I talked to Usyk, and he was saying, we went through many things, good and bad, and very good and very bad. It's been already almost 10 years since we started our cooperation. We always found the solution. Every time we had like kind of things that need to be resolved, sometimes very complicated, sometimes almost seemed almost impossible to get resolved, but we always found the solution. When he was fighting the undisputed cruiserweight fight in Moscow, that was probably one of the hardest negotiations I ever had. Most difficult, and now what's happening now, you can understand why. I mean, what's happening now in Ukraine, and that was in Moscow. You can just imagine how difficult it was. So at this point, I would say we had very stressful negotiations as well. But this is part of our job. There's no need to say it loud, though I said it loud already. We are not blaming anyone. This is what I want to say very clearly. We've cooperated with Frank Warren, with George Warren, with Queensberry Promotions, very close, very tight. I've visited London a couple times. We spent hours and hours meeting, discussing, talking on phone, talking on Zoom. everywhere and trying to find the solution. At some point, we stopped because we were desperate trying to find the compromise. And Tyson didn't want to compromise. Actually, he wanted what he didn't actually express his demands. The first time we heard officially from Tyson what he wants was like a couple hours before the deadline, when he went on Instagram saying 30-70, you worth and your team worth 70. So that was the first time, and Usyk hooked him from the first time because okay, so now you are here, now you appeared. Okay, I accept it. Let's go with it. Greedy belly, I accept your offer, 70-30, fighting on the 29th of April, meaning that 70-30 is applicable only on April 29th. And you have to donate 1 million to the people of Ukraine. Very simple, very easy. He kept that in mind, that because I informed him regarding our negotiations, and the rematch clause was brought to the table by Fury. So Usyk was kind of confident that this fight has to happen. He wanted it badly. He made everything possible. He stayed in the training camp for more than 3 months because the initial date was in February. Fury didn't even train, by the way. So he wanted it to happen, and he showed his flexibility, his loyalty. He made the courtesy to the world of boxing, accepting 70-30. But how much he would have to accept more? I mean, how more loyal he has to be? It's a matter of fact that when someone comes up with open arms, like trying to embrace you, and you just stand still. You have to have your smile, you have to have your eyes like this, blah blah blah, and then I'm gonna hug you. No, this man showed his real attitude, his real intention, and it has to be respected. Otherwise, it's not happening.
Okay.
Sorry for my long speech.
No. That's why I've got you on, Alex. That's why I've got you on. Listen, let's talk about the rematch clause and the terms around that, because that seems to be what's obstructing this fight. So you've always maintained, Alex, that you're not, Oleksandr Usyk's not interested in Tyson Fury. It's the WBC belt. That's what he wants to add. You've maintained that. So my question about the rematch is, why not go and beat Tyson Fury, get the belt on April 29th, and then you don't have to worry about the rematch?
Yeah, on a 50-50 basis, easily.
But he agreed to 70-30, no, for April 29th?
Yes, we agreed for he agreed for 70-30, having in mind that the winner would have 70-30 in the rematch.
Okay. But what I'm saying is, why even worry about the rematch? Why not go and get the WBC belt, which is what you're after, and then you can move on? You have the keys to the doors, if you like.
If you ask Frank Warren, why would they put a rematch clause in most of the contracts? He will answer you, because anything may happen in the ring. Like, remember the last fight of Daniel Dubois. He got injured. He hurt his knee, and he could lose. It's a great blessing that he put himself together and won the fight. But he could have lost it. So it means that the rematch clause is something that gives you a chance to insure your risks. When Queensberry or Matchroom are making a big show, they spend pretty solid money on insurance. It means that in case the show does not take place, the insurance company will compensate the costs. So this is a matter of common reason.
Mm-hmm.
You have to secure the risks. And when you're fighting in England, the home of the WBC champion, you can get robbed by the judges. Just I'm not like claiming that you'll definitely be, but we had this in the past. So this is just the experience. So we have to foresee this, and that's why Usyk has his promoter and his manager beside him, and our lawyers, respectful people, to point out the principal things for him. And but he doesn't like to get really deep inside. He's very very simple person. He's very easy to deal with. I mean, he's like a very open-hearted. You approach him, you explain it to him, and he accepts. He's not like a gambler. He accepts it because his heart is very clean. His heart is very transparent and open.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Anything can happen in the fight. And, you know, if Tyson were to win on April 29th, then, you know, I see what you're saying there for Oleksandr Usyk having that rematch clause in place. But, you know, the only time we're going to get 4 belts on the line is April 29th. Past that, if they do have a rematch, I don't know what belts are going to be on the line due to mandatories. You know, the governing bodies, at least 1 or 2 of them are going to call the mandatories. The belts get fragmented. So in the rematch, you guys probably wouldn't even be fighting for all the belts, which is what's important to Oleksandr, isn't it?
That's what I heard from George Warren this morning, and that's what I cannot agree with. So the sanctioning bodies are okay because they are dealing with the biggest event. So once they render you the position to fight for the undisputed, and the rematch clause is in, there is always a place, some space for negotiations. Remember when we first started to speak about the undisputed, it happened 1.5 years ago when Tyson Fury refused fighting Usyk, and he chose Dillian White for the mandatory. Mm-hmm. So, but at that point, Usyk.
Sorry, Alex. Just cut.
Just a second.
No problem. Sorry. You could carry on. I think the last bit we got, we're recording now, Alex, was when Tyson boxed Dillian White. You were talking about. You know, he didn't fight Usyk.
Yeah, I was talking. He had to it was his choice to fight Dillian White instead of fighting Oleksandr Usyk, and Dillian White was his mandatory. And we had the deal at place that Anthony Joshua agreed to step aside from Usyk's contractual obligations for the rematch, and Dillian White was willing to take money to step aside from Tyson's obligations. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's a manageable situation. And when such a huge fight is taking place, anything can be sorted out.
So we know, Alex, if Oleksandr Usyk won the first fight on April 29th, you guys were pushing for a 70-30 split in your favour for the rematch. Tyson's team wanted 50-50. My question is, what if Tyson won on April 29th? What would the split be then? What split would you guys want in the rematch?
So Usyk's understanding was, when he accepted 70-30, his understanding was that 70-30 would be the split for the winner for the rematch.
Okay. So it works both ways, essentially. You're split for 70-30.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So,
and by the way,
yes.
My first approach, when Frank Warren mentioned somewhere on the media that 50-50, it's a 50-50 fight. Very easy. Both are champions, should be respected. Nothing else to talk about. We just go and make it. And I agree with him completely, because my first approach was that we have it 50-50 for the first fight and 50-50 for the second fight. So none of the fighters lose the incentive to train. We remember what happened to Tyson after he won Klitschko. And he had the contractual obligation to deliver the rematch, which he didn't comply with. And then he almost ruined his life. So the offer of 50-50 for the rematch was to give the fighter the incentive not to go deep, but to stay on the surface and take the rematch, no matter what happens.
Okay, I hear that.
It wasn't
accepted. For
accepted.
sure. Frank Warren spoke on both on TalkSport today and to myself about, when you fought Anthony Joshua, the rematch was 50-50, and that's obviously what they're offering you for the rematch. So do you want to make comment as to why in this situation it's different? I think you've alluded to it, but I just want you to clarify that bit.
Usyk was the mandatory challenger for the WBA for 2 years. We were very flexible in negotiations with Eddie, because with Eddie we were always listen, it took us 5 minutes to get the co-promotional deal. It took us, I don't know how many, like couple days to put the fight with AJ together, because it was fair. It was fair. Usyk was the mandatory challenger. AJ was the champion. So there is a split at place. A split which is 80-20. If we go on a purse bid, it's going to be 80-20, no matter who wins. So it's easy. Eddie showed some loyalty, so he gave another something on top for the incentive. It was good, but the 50-50 split was accepted because Usyk was fighting the biggest fight in his career. He wasn't tested in heavyweights. His biggest fight was probably with Chisora. So here he comes with the champion. So he's challenging that height. Who could imagine at that time that Usyk will defeat? I mean, beside Usyk team, no one could. Most of people, all the odds were like in favor of AJ, but he won the fight. And then I want to make clear, then he took the rematch, which was initiated by AJ immediately in the ring. So it was fair because we had this obligation. We gave our word. We gave we put our signatures on the contract, and that was the case. Then Saudis came up with the offer to stage the fight, and that was a pretty decent offer, I would suggest. It was a 50-50. Both parties received probably the same money. But the money that Usyk received for the second fight is not even close to what he's supposed to receive in the fight with Tyson Fury on April 29th. Because the anticipated purse of Usyk would be 3-4 times lower than his previous fight. So when I hear people say that Usyk gonna win, gonna earn some extraordinary money, this is not true. This is not even close to be true. It's just a normal fight for Usyk, just a normal, regular fight for Usyk, money-wise. But he's accepting that. He's taking that. No, he's not accepting that anymore. He accepted it in the past, and he took it like it was. But so it's not about money. You know what I mean? It's not about money. It's about his real desire to fight for WBC, which will probably happen someday in the future.
When we're speaking about these rematch clause splits, we're obviously referring to a situation where the rematch happens in the UK about, you guys wanting 70-30, Tyson wanting 50-50. Now, if Oleksandr Usyk wins, he has a great chance going into this fight, but I would still say it's a big moment, if you like, for world boxing. It captivate the audience, and the whole world would want to see that rematch if Tyson Fury were to lose to Oleksandr Usyk, and that would bring, you'd think, Saudi Arabia in. They'd want to stage that rematch. So I know when you guys were talking to Saudi Arabia that each sort of the deals would be done individually between the parties and Saudi Arabia. I.e., you do the deal for Usyk with Saudi, and Frank Warren would do it for Tyson and agree their purses individually with Saudi Arabia. So, having said that, with the rematch more than likely to happen in Saudi Arabia, the purses would be agreed individually. So, should we even be worrying about the splits for a rematch?
Umar, can you estimate the probability of the first fight taking place in London? In December, I would estimate it as not more than 10%. Not more than 10%, because we had everything in place. We had Saudi confirmed for the end of April, beginning of March. We had everything in place. But it turned out to be London, April 29th. By the way, then we had April 29th in Saudi, and it ended up with London.
Mm-hmm.
It means that that in case we treat things like this, so, it's not likely to happen, then we just close our eyes. No, everything is very likely to happen, especially in boxing. The thing that you don't anticipate, you even cannot imagine would take place, most likely will take place.
Okay. But would you say there's a fair chance that Saudi Arabia would come in if Usyk were to beat Tyson on April 29th for the rematch?
For the rematch, I think we are talking now. We are talking now some stuff that is not related to the reality, because the rematch will not take place in Saudi Arabia. What can take place in Saudi Arabia is the Undisputed Heavyweight Championship now, because 29th is off, and if Skill Challenge Entertainment would be willing to stage this fight, then we will put all our efforts to make it happen. But again, let's imagine both parties negotiate their own deals. So during my conversations with Prince Khalid, he used to say that you guys are the most easygoing people and the easiest people to make a deal with, and this is true, because we are very reasonable people. Whatever it is. So if it's not about playing games, if it's a fair offer, then we just accept it. We're not trying to gain more and more. So we can make this deal. It's normal. It's easy. But imagine Tyson negotiating with Saudis and asking for more and more and more. So he knows that money is at place, and so Usyk, how much he receives? This one, I want 2 times more. What's gonna happen? Imagine what's gonna happen. Nothing gonna happen, because he will price himself out. That's what he did in the first attempt, and that's what he did in the second attempt right now, and that might happen if he doesn't make the conclusions. That might happen in the future as well.
And lastly, on this rematch clause, what would your response to be to, if you like, Fury fans, UK boxing fans, who would say, even if Oleksandr were to beat Tyson on April 29th and the rematch was to happen at Wembley, later on in the year, that Tyson still deserves a 50-50 split? What would your, response be, that he brings, the stadium with him, the British boxing public, the pay-per-view sales? What would your response be to that, Alex?
Did you see the numbers of Tyson Fury, Derek Chisora pay-per-view?
I haven't been given those numbers, no. Have you?
Unfortunately, yes. And did you see the numbers that Usyk Chisora generated?
Remind me.
Investigate, if you investigate both numbers, you will see the significant difference in the numbers. And I tell you why. Because Tyson Fury is completely overestimated. Look at his last 3 fights. How much pay-per-view did he sell 1 million pay-per-views at least once?
I believe not. I don't have the numbers, but I believe nothing hit 1 million.
No. He never sold. His numbers were lower than even AJ's numbers. His biggest asset is tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So he's selling stadiums like Tottenham in December with Chisora fight. But the figures on pay-per-view were not that not that good. Let's be polite.
Mm-hmm.
Not that good. So it didn't work good enough for the promoter.
Mm-hmm.
And from that perspective, how can we treat Tyson like he is the biggest star? If he is a biggest star, let's look at the numbers. So Usyk last 3 fights and Tyson last 3 fights. Who generated more? And if you look at the numbers, you will see that Usyk fights generated more pay-per-views than Tyson fights. So it's very clear. If Tyson wants to prove the opposite, just let him disclose the numbers.
Okay. Just lastly, when you finished your TalkSport call with Frank Warren this morning, I heard, that you guys might be calling each other, or you might call George, or they might call you about trying to give this one last go. Did that happen earlier today or not?
Yeah, of course. We spoke with Frank, and we both admitted that the fight is off. So we accepted it, and we agreed to talk again over the weekend to discuss the mandatory.
Okay, so Usyk Dubois is the most likely outcome next, Alex?
Usyk versus mandatory is the most likely to happen next.
Okay, so it's not clear whether it will be the WBA or IBF next. Is that what you're saying?
It should be WBA.
Right,
Normally,
okay.
the next in line is WBA, but depending on Dubois' health, if he's fit to fight, that will be the case. You remember his last fight in Fury's undercut?
Yeah, I was there at Tottenham. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a severe injury, a knee injury. You cannot say. I had that injury myself. It took me, I don't know, more than half a year to recover, and until now, 5 or 6 or 7 years passed, and I still feel the pain in my knee after the surgery. So,
who are you having a fight with? I said, who are you having
with wakeboarding? It was wakeboarding.
Okay. Well, hopefully Daniel's healed up, and we can start talks with that fight, and no doubt we'll catch up soon once those talks begin for Usyk Dubois. Alex, thank you for your time as always. Take care.
God bless you. All the best.
I refuse to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day,